to all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry Live 2.0. I'm your host, Shawn Whittington. I'm a seminarian in the United States Old Catholic Church, and I'm coming to you live from my haunted house, my very haunted house, where I live. Been quiet today, but I'm going to talk a lot of paranormal with my guest today, so it might pick up before we get. Well, actually, it is. Keep an eye on the dream catcher there. It's already spinning. No vents in here, no fans are on, and I'm cold, and it's 115 degrees out. So uh, somebody's here wanting to listen to my guest tonight. Um, yeah, we got a great show. He's in the green room. I'll bring him right out. Let's first check the prayer urn. Robert P. from Texas. Hi, Robert. I have followed your career for a while. Well, God bless you. You were an ordained Christian exorcist. Yes, I was. And now in in your 60s, you've entered the Catholic seminary. Yes, I have. You have been paying attention. I too feel a calling to the priesthood. Can you advise and pray for me? Robert, that's a beautiful question, and I most certainly will. Listen very carefully. I hope you're watching. Go to usocc.org and or bishopjameslong.com. Somewhere on either or either location or both, you'll find a place for to look into vocations. We do have a vocations director named Michelle, very nice young lady. You'll probably end up talking to her at some point, but follow that route. And I'm not really sure what the interview process or application process is from that point, but that's a good starting point to go there and pursue that. But God bless you for the request, and I will offer up a very nice prayer for you. I offer up this prayer for Robert. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, send workers for your harvest, so that the precepts of your only begotten Son may always be obeyed, and his sacrifice be everywhere renewed. Look with favor upon your family, and ever increase its numbers. Enable it to lead its sons and daughters to the holiness to which they are called, and to work for the salvation of others. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Good luck to you, Robert, and I have a feeling I'm going to be talking to you again. And on that note, I think it's first weekend in November. If you're in the Louisville, Kentucky area, and the name of the town escapes me, about an hour outside of Louisville in Indiana, there's a little. If you see me riding around first weekend in November in the Pope Mobile in that area, you're not imagining things. I will be ordained into the diaconate in the United States Old Catholic Church on that weekend. So I'll be out there driving around with Bishop James Long, and the other seminarians are going to be ordained into the diaconate. We're ordaining an abbot, and we're also, one of our seminarians is taking his permanent vows into the Benedictine order, which is going to be very cool. It's a long weekend. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back on Sunday. One of our priests is getting married too that weekend, but it's open to the public. As we get closer, I'll post a lot more information about it, but it's open to the public. If you're able to travel or you live in that area and you want to come and hang out with the crazy people at the USOCC, that would be you're more than welcome. It'll be a fun time. Okay, let's check the mailbag. Am my mailbag empty? Oh no, there's one. I was in there earlier and I just answered some letters. Jason W. from Florida. Hi, Jason. I'm on the fence about past lives. Some days I believe, some days not so much. Thoughts? Past life regression? Very, very interesting question. Jason, I have colleagues in the field that absolutely do not believe in past lives, and that's okay. I don't judge. Um, there was a time where I didn't, but a lot of things have happened to me, and I've experienced a lot of things that put me on the fence, and now I'm totally on one side of it, barely hanging on by one arm towards being a 110% over the top believer in past lives. It's interesting you ask about the past life regression. If you think you can be hypnotized, um, find a reputable hypnotherapist, I think they're called now, who does that, puts people through past life regressions, and do that. You might be very pleasantly surprised what you might find out about that if you're into that sort of thing. But I'm really leaning towards it being a real thing. I believe we have free will after we die, even the same as we have when we're alive. And I believe some people have decide to come back for whatever reason. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But that is a great question. But if you follow through with that, Jason, and do a past life regression, please reach out to me. Let me know how that went. I find that stuff fascinating. But thank you very much for the question. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. When you go there to visit, trust me, brothers and sisters, I know times are tough. But if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, please click on it and send my donation in a small um, click on the donate button and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. While you're there visiting, remember my wife and I, we don't charge for our ministry work, but I'm also a certified spiritual advisor. So if you are having issues of a spiritual nature, not necessarily attached to the paranormal, and you'd like to make an appointment to speak with me, there's a place on the website to do that. But don't leave the website without navigating over to the page called Introduction to Spiritual Warfare Course/books. On that page, you'll find not only one, but both my books, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And I believe Amazon has a deal right now on them as a gift set. Not for sure, but I think so. But you can get them a little less expensive at Amazon. If you get them off of the website, they leave from my office here. I autograph them and I enclose them in a beautiful house blessing kit and ship them direct to you. So those are your two options there for the books. Scroll a little bit further down, you'll see the Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course. I'm the instructor. I will be your teacher. I offer a 12-week online college level course. And this is a course for all you true warriors for Christ out there that feel a calling and a longing to want to have more knowledge when it comes to drawing your line in the sand, making a stand, circling the wagons, and putting up a good fight, perhaps even the fight of your life against, God forbid, true evil if that ever comes calling. This is the course for you. All my students that graduate receive a stunning diploma, certificate of completion suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items that you can only get from yours truly. So you can enroll in the course there on the website. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, there is a Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, Shawn Whittington's Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course Facebook page. You can go there, read about it, or just call me. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm approachable. We can talk and see if the course is right for you. Most importantly, please keep all of my former, current, and future students in your prayers. Thank you very much. Okay, the reason why you all tuned in today, my guest, I haven't talked to him in a while. I love him. I respect him. He's just a cool dude. Um, and this conversation, who knows where it's going to go. I know most of you are expecting to get us to get in a little Bigfoot talk, and we will. But the guy has had so many incredible paranormal experiences. He's a lifetime experiencer of paranormal issues too, and his stories I find fascinating. So I thought I've got to share with my family. So without further,
Me, right? Me,
yes, yes,
right? All
yeah.
right. All
You
right.
guys all know Zach. He's married to my well, it's a husband and wife co-producer thing going on there.
Yeah, be careful.
And
She's near, so be careful.
and Adrian, Ghost Gal, um, from Things Network, uh, diehard over the top believer, experiencer herself. She marries this guy who's could be further from that. They are the true, when you hear opposites attract. God bless them both. But we're trying to pull Zach over into the dark side, and I think it'll happen one of these days. But so there you have it. But no, my guest has had a lifetime of just incredible paranormal experiences that I know you guys are going to love. So without further ado, let's please give a big warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only KARL Sup.
Hey everybody,
What are you
how
doing?
you doing? Oh, I'm just trying to recover from knee surgery, and I'm doing well at it. So I'll be out on the forest trails and out finding the truth for everyone.
Let
So
me ask you a personal question. Did you really have to do these back to back joint knee operations, or I mean, did you really have to go put yourself through all that so that you could actually still continue going out on squatching outings
well,
and or could you have or how bad was it?
they were pretty bad. I had no cartilage left in either knee from about 35 years of really I'll say semi-professional sand volleyball. So they were, and I did play in a few pro tournaments as well. So, but yeah, the knees were shot from all that abuse
Wow.
all those years. So
And it does, and it's not. And I know you are an outdoors guy, and you go out a lot, and that makes it miserable. Something that you once really loved to do, now being in excruciating pain to go out hiking around, that takes the fun and the love and the passion out of that. So I
absolutely,
only ask because I've heard nightmare stories about it. I have a torn cartilage in each knee. I deal with it. But I'm scared, personally scared to go under the knife. And I've heard some horror stories about it. But God bless you that you seem to be coming along fine. And I can't wait for you to get back out there again, man. Every time you go out, you seem to have these really incredible encounters with the Sasquatch. And I just think it's really, really cool. So
yeah,
what I want to talk to you about today is probably something a little bit, some of the people that know you and love you and tuned in for a typical chat between the Rev and KARL Sup aren't going may get that at the end of the show, but I've done some reading about some of the paranormal encounters that you've had throughout your lifetime. And I'm telling you, brother, I don't know why you and I haven't talked about this stuff before. I find them fascinating. I want to share them with my audience. And if we run out of time, I'm 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 ready to book you for I
okay.
think it's October or November for a part two and finish
I
up.
don't
But
know.
let's start with I did a lot of reading last night and today, some of the stuff you sent me. And I'm just going to throw out the titles of the chapters that you sent me, and then you can take it from there. We might as well start at the top with beginning.
Sure, sure. So when I was about 5 years old, actually they did like some kind of a vaccination inoculation thing, and part of that inoculation was a scarlet fever. I know was in that vaccine. now this is going way back, obviously, right? I was born in 1963. So, but actually, like 4 or 5 kids in my class actually contracted scarlet fever, including myself. One actually died from it um, right after the shots, which, you know, I guess you could say that was a coincidence. But during that, I remember being just really sick and burning up, high temperatures. You know, my mom and dad give me ice baths and so forth. But I remember the one night I went to sleep, or afternoon, I think. I don't know. Couldn't tell you which time of day, but I remember going to sleep, and I remember kind of traveling to a bright horizon. So everything around me was dark, but there was a bright horizon, and I could see like silhouettes of innumerable people on the horizon. And as I approached, it was right up to a single silhouette. And as I got up there, it was um, this woman, and she talked to me for quite a while. And I was asking a bunch of questions, and then she told me that, you know, it wasn't my time. Well, at that point, I really hadn't seen a photo of my grandmother who had died in 1937, but um, looking through later on, about a year later, looking through a photo album that was at my grandfather's house, there's a picture of her, and I recognized her instantly. I said, "Oh, that's Emma," and they were like, my dad was like, "How'd you know who that was?" You know, I said, I met her. No. She died in 19, she died when my dad was 14 years old. So it was, um, yeah, it was uh, something for me to think about, right? But she sent me back, and I recovered from that. But after that point of having that experience, I really became more aware of my surroundings, and of things that were happening around me. And like you, I lived in a haunted house as a kid, so it was a really good proving ground for me, uh, you know, uh, experiencing that, because uh, in so my parents bought the house in 1959, 4 years before I was born, 4.5 years, and but as they learned when they purchased the house, was that the previous owner, who is uh, last name of Dobick, had actually um, died in the upstairs master bedroom. So, and they knew that. They didn't really think anything of that, But after I'd had that uh, experience of visiting my grandmother, the I began to notice like someone coming down the stairs in the house, and it was perfectly timed. You could hear 8 stairs being stepped on, and then the squeaky stair. We had that squeaky stair step that, so it was always perfect timing and perfect rhythm. Somebody's coming down the stairs. We're sitting in the living room. I'm thinking, oh, somebody was upstairs and they're coming down the stairs, and then nobody would come down the stairs, right? So this went on for a while. We got a dog in 1970, and she actually would get up from sitting in the living room and walk over and stare up the stairs and look down the stairs and watch somebody coming down the stairs until they got closer to her, and then she'd tilt her head up and sit there like someone's patting her on the head, and then she'd come back into the living room. Um,
That's
so
cool.
yeah, but
That's how you know it's not malevolent, because malevolent, they always the animals, they want to be anywhere but there when when
absolutely,
the entity's around. So when they're disembodied spirits, usually the animals definitely notice them, but are not afraid of them at all. That's a beautiful touch to that story.
yeah, and so but the one night I went to sleep, and it was truly the first vivid dream that I recall having, and I get them a lot, where I'll have a vivid dream and wake up sometimes with literally, and I can actually, take my pajamas and have somebody else, smell my pajamas, and they can describe the scent that I um, that I experienced in the vivid dream, even though I was still in my room. It stuff like that, but that's for another episode here. But I had the very first vivid dream I can remember was I woke up in the master bedroom, which I only slept in when there was a thunderstorm or a tornado or something like that. But I came. I put on a robe and I walked down the stairs into the entry of the house and then around the corner. And I paused for a second right near the kitchen. If I had gone in through the door on the right, it would have gone into the kitchen. But instead, I turned left and I went downstairs into the basement. Now, being, at that time, I think I was probably about, 6 or 7 maybe when I had this dream. I was too short. I couldn't reach the little pull string on the light bulb hanging down from the ceiling. I had to I had to go down into the darkness down to the 4th step down, and then kind of do a little jump in order to catch the string to turn the light on to go down in the basement. Well, in this dream, I just reached up and, turned it on. I was much taller. So I got down into the basement and I looked around and I noticed these curtains on the basement windows. And I walked over and I grabbed a stool and went over to these built-in shelving units that were in the basement, and got up onto the step stool, and I reached at my very tippy toe top, and I reached along the top edge of that shelf until I suddenly felt a little bag, burlap sack, and it had a piece of brown twine around it. And I remember I got it into my hand, but I could feel the dust and the grit of that top layer of that shelf. But in fact, right now, as I'm recounting it, I can remember it vividly. But I held that pouch in my hand, that burlap pouch, and I put it down into my robe pocket. Well, I turned and I got off the step stool and I went back upstairs and then walked into the kitchen. And I still had my hand in my pocket, kind of twiddling the burlap sack. And as I walked into the kitchen, there was a kitchen table in the same position that we had our usual kitchen table, but different table. And on the far side, there was a woman sitting down eating. And on either side, there was a boy sitting on either side of the table, 2 kids. And I remember as the moment I entered the room, the woman jumped up, went over to the stove, grabbed a bowl, ladled some oatmeal into it, and then set it down on the table as I sat down at the table. And I still had my one hand in my pocket, right in that. And I remember I looked down at the oatmeal, and then I looked up and I looked at and I felt sadness. And I looked at the 2 boys, and then I looked across the table at the woman, and I said, "I love you." And I woke up. Well, I relayed this story to my parents, and my parents were a little shocked because as I recounted the story, I said, I got down into the basement and it was really funny, but Mom, your barber cape that you always cut my hair with, and honestly, she was a horrible barber. But we will not be posting photos of my bowl haircut as a kid. But she was a little stunned. But I said, your barber cape was hanging on the windows as curtains down in the basement, and she just almost, like, the blood drained from her face. And as it turned out, when they moved into the house in 1959, she hated the curtains in the basement, which happened to be what she turned the material into, a barber cape.
Oh, yeah.
but she took them down like in July of 1959. I wasn't born until November '63. So, it was at that young age, though, I started like, okay, well, how is that possible? I started asking those questions, and that's kind of driven me my whole life, really. But, so that was one of the anomalies. The other one, my dad, as I described it,
Your dreams are you probably had many dreams like that in your life, and it's
I
almost
have,
like, I'm not going to say astral projecting, but it's very astral projection like,
yeah,
those dreams. Very interesting.
yeah, yeah. So my dad got a little. Almost the same thing happened to him as I described the burlap sacks, because he said when they first moved in, he was cleaning out the basement and he found these little burlap sacks all along the top shelf of that thing, that he threw them out because they were filled with rat poison. Um,
Hmm.
and it was, when I was looking at that oatmeal, the thought that went through my head was, I'm going to put the contents of what's in my pocket in the oatmeal. That was, and of course, and later on, once the internet came around and I could do further research and look up newspapers.com and etc., I did find that the husband had, Mr. Dovick, had passed away, um, by suicide. That's all. That's all it said.
Oh.
It didn't list what, but um, so that was his method. But that was relayed to me. So like I said, that was something that really drove me, and I had that understanding. I'll relay one little quick story that I didn't put in there, but I did had my grandfather, my mom's father, passed away in 1959, and I actually had this vivid dream, same thing, that I was at his funeral, and I was in the funeral parlor, and I remember, and I looked forward ahead, and I saw, the casket sitting up there with the flowers and everything, and I remember I drifted down the aisle. I didn't step. My viewpoint was, as if I was using a steady cam. There was no bounce of a step or a walk. And I just drifted down the aisle right up to the casket, and I put my hands on the edge of the casket, and I looked in the casket, and I recognized, my grandfather in the casket, because from other family photos, but there was no photos of the funeral. Um, so it was uh, it was very reassuring. It was like he was trying to send a message to me. But you know, I looked around and I described exactly what was in the casket, the flowers on the casket, the order of the flowers on and everything. And I went and I asked my grandmother, his widow, um, what was did that sound? And she said, that's exactly it. I said, it's bronze casket, you know, and even the stuff that my cousin Joel actually uh, put into the casket with him, a toy that was in the casket. I mean, there's no way I would know that. and uh, and this is the one dream that I woke up and I completely smelled of flowers when I woke up, and I was just in my room. It wasn't like I was rolling around with a florist or anything. So, um, but it was really remarkable. And then my grandmother the next day comes out with a book that was actually like the funeral uh, record, and she had written down every one of the flowers that was in their thing, and I was like 98% right, spot on with all the flowers that were there.
This
So
this may have nothing to do with anything, but I've learned to to recognize these things. If you later on have a dream that has anything to do with me, call me and let me know, because it's
Oh, I
interesting.
will.
Twice already you've mentioned 1959, and that's the year I was born. And I'm
Okay.
wondering if indirectly through this conversation with you, I'm supposed to get some message. So just thought I would throw that out there. It
I
may not mean
no,
anything, but it's interesting.
absolutely. You know, yeah, I would definitely call you with that. But yeah, that was interesting. But right before, we moved from Illinois to Arizona in 1972, and right before, the kids in, you know, it was towards the end of the school year, and I I went to sleep that night, and I think my dad had tucked me in that night, and Um, normally he would crack the bedroom door so some of the light from the hallway would kind of shine into the room, so it wasn't completely dark for me. And but this night there was a full moon out, so the moonlight was shining through the bedroom window. And I should have sent you a photo of that bedroom too. I do have one. That would have been interesting. But
We'll do a part two. I'll have you
there
back
we
in
go.
October or November. We'll
There,
do a part two.
perfect. So yeah, so he tucked me in, go to bed, and light was out, just moonlight coming through the window, and I was just laying there staring at the ceiling, trying to fall asleep, and I was almost asleep, and I suddenly hear this whisper in the room, close to me, not far, and I hear something, and it's not really clear. I can't quite make it out, and everybody listening, this is a little disturbing, but and normally when I don't recount this story very often, but good thing it's recorded here, so I don't have to continue recounting it. But so I hear this voice, and it gets a little stronger and a little stronger, as I'm straining to understand what it's saying, and I suddenly hear this voice, and it says, "I'm here for you," and I get astonished when it came through that clear. But as it got broader, as it got louder, it was a little raspy voice, and I could tell at that point that the voice was on the other side of the bed. So if laying in bed facing straight up, it was to my left, but below me, and I decided what I was frozen. I didn't know what to do, and then I
Did you feel it meant I'm here for you or I'm here for you?
to take you.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the feeling. And this is probably where I got a lot of my grit from, especially when I'm like out in the woods, facing down 1,000-pound Bigfoot. I have no fear of them, but I was quite scared, and I remember I took every ounce of my energy to look over the edge of the bed, to look down to see what was speaking. And as I got close to the edge of the bed, it I looked over, and here's this it's face down, um, and it's I can see its back, and you can see like the ridges of its spine through its skin, and its skin was kind of dark and glistening, and it looked scaly, and it was face down, and but from my viewpoint, you could see towards the back, legs, whatever, it looked kind of skinny or spindly, and it spoke again, and it said this. It repeated itself, um, and with that, it turned its head towards me and looked right at me, and I remember those dark eyes, smaller mouth, small protrusions from its head, um, and as it turned and looked at me, I screamed. I'll admit, it was I shrieked. Okay,
Yeah.
and um,
How old are you
and,
now?
so I was eight
Yeah,
at the time,
that's pretty
and
terrible.
yeah, so I shrieked, and when I screamed, jumped up and it ran towards the closet door. Now the moonlight was coming through and kind of hitting the closet door, into the room. And as it hit the closet door, it went right through the door. And as it went through the door, the wood grain distorted in the door, and it actually it looked a little bit like it. Its appearance of the wood grain looked like it as it went through that door. And my dad was in the room not even probably 30 seconds after I had screamed. I may have still been screaming, I'm not sure, but when he came into the room, I was pointing at the closet door, and it took me a while to compose myself and tell him what happened, and he went over there and he opened up the closet door, and there was nothing in the closet door, but he looked at the wood grain and he said, I don't remember it looking like this. Needless to say, that night I slept in my parents' bed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then the next day, my dad actually took that door off its hinges and he painted the door white. So painted it with white paint. And not, kind of as a going away gift, a grade school friend gave me a cross that just as, we were getting ready to leave in July from Illinois. And I love the thing, but I never actually got to wear it. And it went into the packing boxes, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle, right? Well, fast forward to 1984. I'm in Arizona. My dad had passed away in 1978. So when I was 14, and it was I had a lot of responsibilities. My sister had moved out in 1980, and I was caring for my mom and my grandmother living there. I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school, so it was quite a it was quite a time in my life. And I spent I'd gone to school that morning, which I had early class, like a 6:30 a.m. And I had gotten home about noon, and I had to go to work at 3. So I was like, well, I'll take a couple hours of nap before I head off to go work. And so I laid down on my bed. I instantly fell asleep into a deep sleep. All of a sudden I'm in this deep sleep, and all of a sudden I'm having a vivid dream. And this is 11 years later after that first incident. I happened to be in a car driving down the street that I used to live in as a kid, and we were visiting, and my mom was in the car. I pulled up and I parked, and we got out and we went up to the front door, and I knocked, and a woman came to the door, and it was the wife of, it was the owners that had purchased the house from my parents. And she was like, oh, she's talking to her. And she says, well, my mom said, hey, could we look around in the house? I'd love to see the rooms. And she said, well, I'm going out shopping, but you guys are more than welcome. So, I know it's strange. She left. We went into the house. And I remember different furnitures, different floorings in the house, different rugs on the hardwoods. It was different paint on the walls, etc. My mom walked around the living room and then went into the kitchen, and I went up the stairs, and I thought, oh, I'll go see my old bedroom. And I went into the bedroom, and the moment I walked into the bedroom, the door behind me slammed shut. And it kind of startled me initially. But when I looked over towards the closet, between the edge of the window and the closet door, there was, as best I could describe at that time, was a distortion. Now, I know the movie didn't come out till 1987, but if you've seen the movie Predator, the cloaking device that the Predator has, kind of like a crystalline, something's there, but you can't see it. There's a shape. That's exactly what it looked like. So, 3 years later, when I actually saw the movie Predator in the movie theaters, oh, I got goosebumps because it was like, you know, and so I, it, you know, even though you couldn't see it, you know, there was something standing there, and it said, it kind of more hissed it at me. It said, "I've been waiting for you." And I remember at that time I put my hand on my chest, and underneath my shirt I could feel the cross that my childhood friend had given me, and I was wearing it underneath my shirt. But I had put my hand on my chest, and I said, and I just said to it, "I'm not afraid of you." And when I said that, it let out a shriek and it ran towards me. Now, seeing something that's cloaked, or you know, not seeing running directly at you, and I stood there completely fearless, and it hit me, and it was just as if something had punched me right in the chest. I staggered back a step, but you know, and it felt like a hole was in my back. I mean, that's how hard it hit me. And I, once I got my bearings again, I turned back around, and I still had my hand on my chest, and I turned and I looked, and it was no longer cloaked, and it was crumpled on the ground, and it was the thing, except this time it was daylight, you know, and the same thing, but you know, its skin was a dark gray, blackish, scaly, moist. Anyway, it was on the ground and huffing and puffing, just like it had been completely exhausted. And as I turned and I looked at it, it jumped up and it ran past me and into the closet. And it hit the closet door, all the paint melted off the closet door, and the wood grain was clear behind it. So you would think that would be the end of the dream, where you'd wake up and be shocked by it. Well, I woke up and I was completely disoriented. I had fallen asleep in my bed, and when I woke up, I was actually in the corner of my room, standing on my head. And I'm not talking about doing a handstand. I'm talking about doing a headstand. My head was on the floor in the corner of the room. My heels were up towards the ceiling in the crease of the corner, and my arms were folded across my chest and I was completely disoriented. I didn't know what it was, and I was sweating. If you had told me that I had jumped in the swimming pool, I was that soaked with sweat, just completely. And I kind of, once I realized where I was and what was happening, I kind of crumpled to the floor, and I got up and I was just shaking and kind of jittery, and it felt like something had punched me in the chest. Okay, as I was laying there, and so I got up and I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror. I pulled my shirt up, and as I pulled my shirt up, right in the center of my chest, there was a large red spot, like, as if something had hit me there. Oddly enough, even though I wasn't wearing it, and it was actually still in the box that was gifted to me in 1972, right in the center of this red blotch on my chest was an outline that was unbruised of the cross in the middle of my chest that I had in my dream. Okay. On my back, I had a similar red mark on me as well. I went back into my room. I dug through every box that I had in there until I found that cross. I wore that 4 years straight. I don't think without ever taking it off. It was interesting to see that my childhood home had been purchased in 2021, just a couple years ago, and it actually was torn down to build a McMansion. But from the realtor's photos, there was a photo of my old bedroom, and it was interesting to see, since I hadn't been back into that room since 1972, that the closet door that the white paint was no longer on that door, and there was no strange wood grain in it, which I thought was was an interesting
Yeah.
footnote to this story. But
It reminds me, your story reminds me of a client that I had for a really long time who seemed to be followed not only in dreams, but in real life, seemed to be followed all her life by this little malevolent entity or demon. And she would describe it to me as being it was a little person, but it wasn't a child, but it only was wearing like an old pair of jeans, dirty old jeans. It had no shirt on. Its feet were hooves, and its
okay,
body was badly burnt, and its head was badly burnt too. No horns, no tail, but it would follow her everywhere. And this thing, like you're a much older man now than that time. Has this been an ongoing thing the rest of your life, or did it eventually something happen in your life to where it kind of severed that connection?
that was the sever point. Was the I'm telling it I'm not afraid of you, and having the faith to stand my ground, and and I think that I kind of use that as an example. I've like I said, I have 1,000 stories around the paranormal, but I've kind of used that as my guide for when I have encountered malevolent spirits that I've been able to channel energy in order to fight back to them. And only recently, I want to say in the last probably 5 years, 6 years, I've and I don't know where it's coming from, and love to have your input on this, but it I, I, whenever I had an instance where I would fight something like that or extend myself out in order to help somebody else with that, my exhaustion level would be so great, that boy, I could sleep 12 hours, which is rare for me, after an incident like that. Um, of late, I'm somehow tapping an energy that is not mine, but is from somewhere else, and it's almost, I want to say that it almost feels like it's an infinite energy. Um, so I've actually helped people clear houses by kind of blasting this energy. It's like, okay, done. It was it was that it's that powerful, and I can't explain it, and um, and I fear that if I don't use it a lot, I might lose it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's yeah,
Well, I'm
and I
gonna
know
throw.
it's
I'm gonna throw
okay.
without even
Go
having
for it.
to look at my book. I'm gonna throw a couple of dates at you.
Sure.
I know in October I have a couple of Fridays still open. I know that there's an actual Friday the 13th in October, and I do know the Friday it could be the 27th ish, maybe, leading into Halloween weekend. I have those two Fridays open. You think about that, and I'll
Okay.
have you back on one of those, whichever one of those dates works good for you. I'll have you back for a part two, and we'll just tell ghost stories
That sounds
that
great. How,
night.
how about how about we do the 27th? That would be great.
Okay, let me ask you something else real quick here before we run
Sure.
out of time, and then I'll ask
Absolutely.
you a quick Bigfoot question.
Yep.
Um, oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart and totally forgot what I wanted to ask you. Oh, do you feel that any of this, I'm going to go ahead and just say these astral projecting type dreams that you have and this power,
Yep.
do you believe any of that is connected with why you have had so many of these incredible encounters with Bigfoot?
I believe I believe so, and I also realized that, and maybe this is for next time, but I also did have a vivid dream where I actually connected to a Bigfoot, and I've never told you that story because it was kind of personal, but only for you I would share that.
Do we have time? We got about 5 minutes.
Sure, but I didn't know if you wanted to go over my June visit. Well, I don't know.
Tell you
Sure.
what, let's
So,
find out what Zach needs real quick. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, before we get going any further, all right, Shawn, I need you to get a hold of your girlfriend and tell her to stop sending her emails to me. Okay? She sent me this video, and I'm going to share it with everybody because she shared it with me. So,
Baila mi gogodán, brinca como Tarzán, me encaramo arriba de ti, te como un flan, la bola se me inflan, claro que se me inflan, no te jamás.
I can't complain. I don't pay him to produce my show, so there's really nothing I can do. But I can't,
I can verify that I've never had that happen to me out in the wild.
And if we did, and if it did, and you had that story, we might have a completely different type of show.
Yep.
What do I want to ask you about Bigfoot?
Sure.
Yes, real quick before we run out of time, you sent me two wonderful. I love the picture of the park near your cousin's ranch that you
Yep.
sent me. Only you would have a park like that near you,
Yep.
and I think Zach's going to put it up there. And I love the Bigfoot sign.
Yep.
Be like Bigfoot, leave no trace, don't litter. You know, there's a reason why they put that sign there. And I
It
forgot
is.
what the other picture is of. There we go. Oh, yeah, that weird
yeah.
print. Talk to us
It's a
about
weird.
that. You know, I'm
So
just going to throw this out there before you describe it. The first thing I thought when I saw that print, because I can see all the little toes and the real deep ball of a foot imprinting there, I'm thinking a juvenile. And now I'll shut
yes.
up and let you talk to us about that.
In fact, that was my impression as well, and it was only that one single print right in the middle of the dirt road on the farm, and but it was quite deep, you know. And I had been walking around there, I mean, with shoes on, but you know, I certainly wasn't leaving any kind of impression on that. So whatever it was a lot of pounds per square inch to.
What do you think, in your humble opinion? What do you think the average fair-sized infant juvenile Bigfoot weighs?
Oh, probably in the 150 to 300 pound range.
Wow.
You know, up to a teenager.
Well, I was telling you in the green room before we got started that it never fails. Just when I'm thinking you're coming on, all of a sudden I'll either get sent an article or stumble upon something about Bigfoot or see a show that I didn't expect to be on, and I stumbled upon that new episode this week of Destination X, and they went to research the Honey Island swamp monster. And MK was in the episode. That was funny. I hadn't seen him in forever. But talk about this last visit of yours to the farm and the encounter
Sure.
that you had. Because I'm thinking now, and the reason why you saw a juvenile, parents, I believe the juveniles and these sightings people have, I believe they're there. I believe they're always close to the adults, and they're kept hidden. But after a while, when these things tend to trust an individual that they've had contact with, like with you, I think the juveniles are released more and allowed to roam a little more freely because the adults aren't so concerned or scared for them because of the person that's they're making contact with. And I'll shut up now.
Yeah, yes, and sometimes those juveniles are more like the Lokis of the woods. You know, they you know, they're, especially when they're teenagers, right? They're a little uncontrollable, and you know, I think the parents sometimes get upset with them for maybe going outside the boundaries of the rules. But the yeah, when I was there the previous time, I was staying in one of the cabins on the farm, and you know, 3 a.m. in the morning, something came up on the porch. I heard it. It was definitely bipedal. Came up, it tried to get into the cabin. It, you know, it rattled the door. You know, it blotted out the what moonlight there was coming through the window on the deck side of the cabin, and then it came down off the deck and went around the back side of the cabin to the window that was, looked into the bedroom that I was in, and that one didn't have a curtain on it. And it, once again, it kind of blotted out the light as it looked in that window at me laying on the bed. But I mean, I was awake, but I didn't jump up and look out the window at, but this time when I was there, I was in a different cabin, but didn't have any late night visitors. But on day 2, I actually walked across the, walking over to the main house, which was built in 1823. And I'm walking down the dirt road, and I only thought to myself, I'm wondering if they're watching me right now, because I hadn't had a visitor that previous night. So I was thinking to myself that, and as I thought that, there was a loud tree knock that came from the bluff area on their property, and I turned and I looked up, and there was no wind blowing at all. In fact, all the trees were absolutely still, except for one tree right on the side of the bluff, and the trees just moving like this. And I kind of laughed. I hung my head down and laughed. I waved up at the bluff, and I started walking. I got about 6 steps away, and a second tree knock occurred right after that. So they were definitely up there. But
very, very cool. I'm going to ask you one last quick biggie question.
Sure.
What jumped out at me at this episode with MK in it, Destination X, was they talked about the eyes, and I hadn't heard them talk about the large glowing amber eyes since I've heard about stories of old red eyes in the New Jersey area, which
Yep.
I'm going to share with you next time, a story about a childhood buddy of mine that I contacted 50 years later, who had this encounter with what I believe now is this old red eyes, because we lived in Colts Neck, New Jersey at the time. But this honey island swamp monster,
Yep.
you can trace all this activity of that same type of creature all through the swamp areas from Florida, Alabama, Georgia, into Louisiana. And they're so different. It's the same creature, I believe, but it's so different than encounters and descriptions of them like further up north, and behavior wise too. Do you believe that they're strictly territorial, or do you believe they're migratory and they can just be migrating all over the place with the weather or what have you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that kind of waffle on both sides of that, but I don't think they are very migratory, because I know that even in the wintertime, that at least the clan that I visit here in Arizona all the time, I go up there and I can tell that they've been hunting during the winter when there's literally feet of snow in that area of Arizona throughout the winter, and really not a whole lot of humans going into that area. They're up there. They're in that area. They're living and hunting, and everybody said, "Oh no, they come down off the mountains," and it's like, not from my experience, not from the elk carcasses that I find with spiral fracture legs and deers that have had their heads ripped off.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think they're migratory. I think they have a certain area, absolutely, that they hang in. Maybe with I'll say a 10 square mile area type of thing. But I know because I know that right down the mountain range that I go to, there's another clan in this other area that I've actually visited a lot, and they're not the same. They're not the same individuals, so they're not really transiting between those. So.
Well, very cool, brother. I can't wait till we do this again going into Halloween weekend.
That'll be
I
class.
love you and respect you, and I thank you so much for taking an hour out of your busy. Did you think that the day you and I would be discussing in Arizona and Las Vegas that we have a hurricane coming?
I know. I
Isn't
know.
that crazy? So, I mean, it's already raining here. I don't know if it's there where you're at, but
yeah, it rained last night here a little bit, but yeah, it's coming.
yeah,
This
it's
weekend's going
coming.
to be a wet one.
Brother, have a great remainder to your Friday evening. Take care of yourself. Can't wait till you're feeling strong enough with the knees to get out there again so you can come back and tell us many stories. And I'll see you Halloween weekend.
All right, fantastic.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
brother.
Thanks, everybody. All right,
Take care. I'll see you
all
later.
right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. KARL Sup. All righty. Real quick here. USOCC.org. BishopJamesLong.com. Go there, be pleasantly surprised. Zach and Adrian Clayton, my co-producers, couldn't do this without them. Thank you both for. And go to Zach's website, communitypayitforward.us. Go there and just be pleasantly surprised. Experience it. Next week's guest. No show Monday. I have something special planned Monday. You'll see that. But next Friday, the 25th, Bob Sharp from Scotland. He's a lead investigator with Lincolnshire Spirit Seekers. He'll be here. Find me now on my new, I've had the profile for a while, but Lawrence Maurice, Sean Patrick Whittington. That's where you can find me now. I still have tons of people trying to track me down because my original profile got deactivated. Don't know if it got hacked or if I did something to upset Facebook and they deactivated it. They won't get back to me. So you can find me now at Lawrence Maurice on Facebook. People still reaching out to me about the show. Eli Roth presents Legion of Exorcists. It's streaming on Discovery Plus and Max, and you can buy the whole season 1 for like $10 on Amazon Prime Video if you are interested in seeing that. Thank you to Things Network. Thank you to Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. Thank you to Skeleton Key Network. Thank you to Pact, little P, capital ACT, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel, for all these networks simulcasting my show. God bless you for all of that. And it is bad joke time. I'm going to tell a bad joke that one of you sent in. I'm going to pull it out of this Haunted Carnival Barker hat. And it's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say goodnight. How many tickles can an octopus take? Tentacles. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. I pray for you all often. God bless you all. Peace.